Look at Dallas's history. They always choke. So we'll go down there and make them choke. Ah, linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles, Camus Grugier Hill. Oh boy, you must be loving that quote. Ah, run that intro.
You're listening to a Holyfield podcast.
Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. I used Anchor to distribute this very episode, and so that all the amazing listeners on the number one podcast in your headphones can enjoy Prem Brulee on whatever platform they prefer. I love how easy Anchor makes it to edit and post episodes. So, if you've always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's Anchor, ANCHOR.FM/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. I can't wait to hear your podcast. Okay, welcome back, listeners. Another edition of Prem Brulee, the number one podcast in your headphones. I'm your host, Premal of Holyfield. And without further ado, let's get this started. Yeah, fam or nah. For now, let's get to the headlines of Week 14. First of all, the Bears are for real, and they totally dominated the Rams offense on Sunday night, winning 15-6. The Rams loss put the Saints back at number one in the NFC and in the driver's seat for home field advantage. The Cowboys dominated in yards against the Eagles, getting a huge day from Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott, and Zeke Elliott to win 29-23 in overtime. They gain a 2-game lead in the NFC East. The Chiefs in the AFC built a lead in the race for home field advantage with a win and getting losses by the Patriots, Texans, and Steelers. The Pats lost on a crazy miracle lateral play by Miami. More on that later. The Texans' win streak was snapped by the Indianapolis Colts, and what has now become routine in T.Y. Hilton just going off on the Texans secondary. And the Steelers choked away yet another game, this time losing to the Oakland Raiders. Yes, you heard that correctly. Their lead is now down to a half game in the AFC North. They're hanging on by a thread over Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Overall, I'm a yeah fan. This was quite the exciting week of football. I love that bye weeks are over and there was so much craziness happening. I was watching NFL Red Zone and it felt like there was something new each minute in each box they went to. They were going to triple boxes, double boxes, quad boxes, left and right, and that's always a good sign that there's a lot of action. Yeah, fam to the Cowboys sneaking out a victory, but of course, being a proud card-carrying member of Team Petty, I had to lead with that quote at the beginning of the podcast. I'm happy they got the win, but more on the disappointing side of that later. Patrick Mahomes is throwing no-look sidearm passes in their game, converted 2 huge fourth downs to even send it to overtime. What a crazy, wacky game that was. So I'm a yeah fan to this weekend of football. I'm here for it, and it should set up for quite the exciting last 3 weeks of the regular season. The next 2 headlines come regarding the Heisman Trophy. The Heisman Trophy I do not recognize, as I said, proud card-carrying member of Team Petty. The Heisman Trophy wound up going to Kyler Murray, who finished with 2,167 points, ahead of Alabama's Tua Tagovailoa, who had 1,871 points, and quarterback of Ohio State Dwayne Haskins finished third with 783 points. Basically, I'm a nah, as you could probably guess. Nah to Kyler Murray winning the Heisman. Sure, he might have deserved it, but the utter disrespect shown to Dwayne Haskins this entire postseason is one Buckeye fans will never forget. I am a nah strictly as Team Petty and will never forget the lack of respect shown. There was even a NBC Sports graphic that flat left out Haskins, made the Heisman Trophy between two people. All three candidates were the correct ones, but the nuts part about this is just the disrespect shown to Dwayne Haskins, who threw for the most touchdown passes, was just short of the highest completion percentage out of the three of them. Critics made a big deal about him playing the most plays over Murray and Tagovailoa, but are we penalizing people for playing more plays? They played the same amount of games. Is it Haskins' fault he might have led longer drives? I don't see that as an issue. So a huge nod to this Heisman Trophy winner. I will recognize the only Heisman Trophy winner I care to, and that is Dwayne Haskins, quarterback of Ohio State. So congratulations to Dwayne, and that is signed by Captain of Team Petty. So fuck you, Heisman voters. Related to that topic, of course, with the Heisman Trophy, Kyler Murray, comes all the speculation about his future in Major League Baseball, as well as a possible future in the NFL. We all know he was picked 9th overall by the Oakland A's. He's got $4.6 million guaranteed waiting for him, and possibly more if he continues to do well. There is NFL interest, even some GMs claiming that he could be a top-round talent. He has said he would love to do both. The headline for this Yeah Fam or Not is Kyler Murray will strictly stick to baseball. So I'm inclined to say yeah fam, but if we're playing the long game, I'm going to go with nah. I just think something about this situation means that he's going to try it. Maybe the opposite of what Russell Wilson does, playing baseball in spring training. Maybe Kyler Murray will try it out with football. I don't see it happening long term. He's no Bo Jackson. He's no Deion Sanders. But I could see if baseball fizzles out that Kyler Murray tries to attempt a return to football, and that's why I'll go with nah, that he won't strictly stick with baseball. Anyway, that wraps up Yeah Fam or Nah. Quick and easy. Congratulations on to the true Heisman Trophy winner, Dwayne Haskins, and we'll end on that. Time for likey, no likey, hate it. My likey switches over to basketball. It's starting to transition into basketball season as football winds down, but likey to the LeBron D Wade bromance. They just had their last game against one another in a game where the Los Angeles Lakers won 108-105 in Staples Center. A really cool moment after the game that they exchanged jerseys, embraced, and this finally breaks a back-and-forth tie head-to-head for them. LeBron and Wade will finish their careers with LeBron edging Wade 16-15 in their all-time head-to-head matchups. Even feature a last-second three heave by Dwayne Wade with LeBron guarding him. Everything you'd want to see. D Wade went for a double-double. LeBron was one rebound short of a triple-double, so the stats were there. Everything you'd want in a game like this, especially with it being Wade's last game against LeBron. It lived up to it and more. I'm here for it. Love the bromance. And the idea that the two totally changed the face of basketball in terms of being friends and still excelling in basketball. The anti-Mamba mentality, so to speak. They changed it forever, and the level of stars teaming up like this in LeBron and D Wade in close to the primes of both of their careers is unheard of at the time, and it's paved the way for other teams, and sadly, a team we do not recognize here out in the Golden Snake Warriors, but that's neither here nor there. LeBron, D Wade, clearly top the snakes out there in the Bay Area, but likey to the bromance, likey to the finish of their last ever head-to-head matchup. I'm digging it. My no likey goes to the Dallas Cowboys. Why, you said? Sure, I'm complaining about them winning 5 in a row. That sounds ridiculous. I hate when people do that and they win. But it took overtime for the Cowboys to beat the Eagles, and maybe this will enlighten you a little bit more about why this would make a Cowboys fan upset. The total yardage at the end of the game was Dallas 576 to Philadelphia's 256. Dallas had a 400-yard passer in Dak Prescott, a 100-yard rusher in Zeke Elliott, and a 200-yard receiving game by wide receiver Amari Cooper, as well as having twice the time of possession and nearly twice the amount of plays. Yet it took a drive in overtime to secure the victory, 29-23. It would have been quite the disappointing loss if those stats were for nothing. So it just gets a no lucky and not a hate it, but you can understand why Cowboys fans have health issues. It's because in a game where they totally dominated time of possession in every category except turnovers, they still took them overtime to win. And that's what will lead to heart problems for you, boy, and more likely than that, gray hairs. Okay, I thought leading with that quote from Eagles linebacker Grugier Hill about the Cowboys choking and him being so very wrong and having to eat his stupid fat words would be enough fiery things for this episode. But then, the rivalry just can't escape. Michigan star defensive lineman Chase Winovich, which I feel kind of dirty adding win to his name because he's done anything but that against Ohio State, said any recruit who's discouraged about coming to Michigan because of the Ohio State game should know that it's a mirage. Quote, "We're building a powerhouse." End quote.
There's nothing. Just sand.
We haven't had water for days. Our best bet is to stop and just hope they find us.
Oh, wait. You see that, Mark?
No. If you're seeing something, it must be a mirage.
But it looks so real.
I think I'm seeing something too.
This is back-to-back Big Ten championships for the Ohio State University Buckeyes. And the dominance that Urban Meyer has had on this conference continues.
Oh, my God.
You fucking idiot. Kudos to the Ohio State football account for cutting up the SNL skit and adding a few Ohio State tweaks to it to prove Chase Luzovich wrong. And the idea that he's trying to tell recruits that a 62-39 game is a mirage is just laughable. Just fucking laughable. You can't make this shit up. Every time you think the rivalry's over, they go opening their stupid mouths and making it worse. And then people question why we enjoy beating them so much. It's because stupid idiots like that claim they're building a powerhouse. How you haven't even been to the Big Ten title game? You can't even beat Ohio State. You better be thanking your lucky stars that Urban Meyer's gone. If you don't end up beating Ryan Day, you might as well let Jim Harbaugh go. You guys fucking suck, and the fact that they can't just take this very lopsided L is ridiculous. A fucking mirage? And if you're one of those recruits buying this bullshit that they're building a powerhouse or you're just going there just to be different, have fun being a fucking loser. That's how I feel about it. And Chase Winovich, get that fucking win out of your name. This is so disrespectful to the idea of winning that someone who has win in their last name would say something that stupid and idiotic. Hate it to that. Love it to Ohio State for releasing that video so quickly. A mirage. Get the fuck out of here. Alright, time for You Played Yourself. My favorite category features results that you didn't expect to happen, probably shouldn't have happened, but here we are nonetheless. You Played Yourself goes to Derrick Henry fantasy owners, and that includes you, boy. I know some of y'all are like me and benched Henry, who decided that he would go off for about 55 fucking fantasy points on a Thursday night football game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars' supposed good defense. Henry was started in 14.7% of ESPN fantasy leagues, so it's nice to know that this pain is mutual amongst a lot of people. Just for a little fuel to the fire, Derrick Henry's 99-yard touchdown run was worth 15.9 fantasy points. On that one play, he scored more points than he did in all but one of his previous 12 entire games this season. Holy shit. You played yourself, everyone, basically. Good to know the Titans just fucked everyone, cost me a playoff victory. I should have known it was doomed from that 99-yard touchdown run, but what are you going to do? You played yourself, me included. If you're one of those fucks that played Derrick Henry, go fuck yourself. Next, you played yourself goes to the Oakland Raiders. Yes, that's right. I may or may not have ranted about the Amari Cooper trade. That's neither here nor there. Don't check me on that. But they traded away Amari Cooper. Credit for this tweet to Field Yates from ESPN. He broke down Amari Cooper's stats difference from his 6 games with the Raiders to now his 6 games with the Cowboys. So, his stats are as follows for the Raiders. 22 catches, 280 yards, 1 touchdown. That's 12.7 yards average per catch. Here are his 6 games with the Cowboys. 34 catches, 642 yards, an 18.9 yard average per catch, and 6 touchdowns. Yikes, John. Yikes, Johnny Gruden. Add to that, trading away a defensive stud in Khalil Mack, who has fortified a Chicago Bears defense that, at the top of this episode, I stated held the Los Angeles Rams to 6 measly points and a very shitty game for star running back Todd Gurley. So you played yourself, Raiders. Hopefully those picks are worth it for you and you don't mess those up. Sure cost the GM his job. Keeping it in football for these next 2. You played yourself goes to the New England Patriots. So I promised I'd get to this, but the Dolphins completed a 69-yard pass on 2 laterals to win on a walk-off touchdown by Kenyon Drake. So, weird enough that you played yourself by that alone, giving up laterals for a touchdown, but the Patriots put in Gronk on the back line of the goal line as if the Dolphins were going to heave a 70-yard Hail Mary that he could knock down. Do we know Ryan Tannehill to have that kind of cannon? Instead, Gronk served as the last line of defense and was too slow to catch Drake running right by him for the game-winning touchdown. You played yourself. Won't get much of a chance to say this, but you played yourself, New England Patriots. Feels good to say that one, doesn't it? This last one might be my favorite. This you played yourself goes to the San Francisco 49ers and George Kittle. Why, you asked? They got a win they probably shouldn't have gotten against the Broncos, but Kittle had 7 catches for 210 yards. A big chunk of that was an 85-yard touchdown reception. It's a great game, right? That 210 was 5 short of setting the record for most receiving yards in a game, which is held by Shannon Sharp. He was on the Broncos when he did that. But get this. All 210 of the yards were in the first half. And what's worse is he only got 1 target in the second half. How do you not run 1 5-yard hitch? Or how does no one make an effort to get him that record? He had a whole 30 minutes of play to get 5 measly yards and they couldn't get it to him? And he only got 1 target, so they didn't even try? You played yourself big time, goes to the 49ers. I know that Coach Kyle Shanahan was apologizing to Kittle, and Kittle played it off like a pro, but Jesus, you couldn't get the guy a record 5 yards short after he'd already gotten 210? Yikes, guys. All right, now it's time for Should They Be Worried, my version of a panic, don't panic. The first one is the Los Angeles Rams. Should they be worried? Did they just get found out by a Bears defense that might have possibly offered the recipe into beating them? The Rams did lose their opportunity to be in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed with the loss to the Bears on Sunday night. Could they potentially win in New Orleans? The first meeting between the Rams and Saints occurred in New Orleans, in which the Rams got dealt their first loss. Could the Rams change up their luck and win in New Orleans if they lost out on home field advantage? Should they be worried in general that other defenses have found them out? I'm going to go with no. I'm not worried yet. There's still 3 games left to play. Anything could happen. They could get the 1 seed back. And other than that, not every defense is as good as the Chicago Bears. It would be tough to replicate the talent they have on defense. I can't imagine Sean McVay would get fooled twice and have an anemic offense another time. So I'm not worried just yet. The Rams, we can't get too comfortable with what happened lately. We have to look at their body of work, and they've been quite impressive all year. Covering the NBA, covered a little bit with LeBron and D Wade, but getting back to it, should they be worried? I think it's finally time to include them in this category. The Houston Rockets, they are, as we record, 11-14 on a 3-game losing streak. They're currently second to last in the West. Is it time to panic? Can they right the ship? Eric Gordon recently has released quotes saying he's just not having fun and doesn't feel the team vibes with their team. Should they be worried? Absolutely. This is more than just a bad start. They lost key pieces, made bad signees, lost key pieces, key wing defenders. It's just not looking good for them. And to think maybe they'd be slumping, I would imagine they'd be on the fringe in the bottom seeds of the playoffs if they were to start way early, not second to last in the West. It seems kind of crazy and not just an anomaly. Hopefully for their sake they right the ship. They were a game away from the NBA Finals last year, so it's odd to suggest that the same core and Chris Paul, James Harden, and Clint Capella can't get this right. But here we are, 11-14 on a 3-game losing streak. I am worried if I'm a Rockets fan right now. Nothing they've shown so far in 25 games suggests that they have made any change for the better. So I am worried if I'm the Rockets. And the last one features another good team in the NFL. Thought it'd be cool to include these two. Both the LA teams, the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers now, with a win this past weekend, have the second best record in the AFC, yet they're setting up to be a wild card number 5 seed because the only team better than them just happens to be in their own division, the Kansas City Chiefs. Sucks to be a Chargers fan. Should they be worried in terms of the playoffs, having to play an away game despite having such a great record? I don't think so yet. They've proven they can win everywhere across the NFL. I'm not worried right now the least bit, especially with the other teams not looking super impressive. Right now they'd be setting up to play the Pittsburgh Steelers, or if the Ravens win the division, the Baltimore Ravens. I like the Chargers' chances in either of them, even if they were the visiting team. While we're at it, I do, if I'm a Chargers fan, think it's kind of a bummer that they have the second best record and would have to play a road playoff game, let alone not receive a bye week, but not even get a home playoff game. I think I'd love to see the playoffs maybe still reward the top 2 division winners with byes, but at least rearrange the remaining 4 playoff teams to give home games to the team with better record. It seems a shame that the Chargers will have to play an away game if the playoffs were to end today. Alright, you know how we like to wrap up each episode. The last category is who you got and what you feeling. And want to recap last week's picks. I picked the NFL game I picked was the Giants at Washington. The Giants had won 3 of 4. Washington was, of course, without Alex Smith and then lost backup quarterback Colt McCoy. Of course, all 4 teams are still in the NFC East race, especially last week, and still kind of is the case. I picked the Giants, but even I couldn't have predicted how dominant of victory they would have gotten. They totally, from start to finish, demolished Washington. Washington took a newly signed Josh Johnson to even put points on the board. Mark Sanchez totally shit the bed. Washington looked atrocious. Their defense didn't do well against New York's offense, and the Giants don't look now are up to 5-8 after looking atrocious to start the season, and are probably in a better situation than Washington is to compete. I'd like to give a special shout out to Washington, who decides that Mark Sanchez, who finished with extremely shitty stats worthy of a 0 quarterback rating, was still signed over one Colin Kaepernick. I'm pretty sure Colin Kaepernick could do better than that. And Jay Gruden's logic about learning the system, I don't recall Mark Sanchez having learned the system either. So, special shout out to you. Do not feel bad at all. I was correct with the Giants pick, but didn't think it'd be that bad. Of course, what will be the case this week and was the case last episode, no picking college games for right now. Wait until the bowl season gears up. But I did pick who I thought would end up as the number 1 seed in the AFC. The candidates, of course, were the Chiefs, Patriots, Texans. The Patriots have and still have a head-to-head advantage over both the other two teams. Of course, we already recapped. Out of those 3 teams, the Chiefs won and the other 2 lost, so the Chiefs gained a larger lead to home field advantage in the AFC in their win versus Baltimore in overtime. The Patriots lost at Miami, and the Texans lost at home to Indianapolis. I picked the Patriots as a hunch, thinking they would get the 1 seed, but it really is looking like the Chiefs will wrap that up. They probably just need, ideally, 2 out of their last 3 games as wins to wrap it up. The Chiefs do have the Chargers this upcoming week, at Seattle, and home versus Oakland. That home versus Oakland should be good for one of the wins. If they can pick up or split the last 2 games, they would likely wrap up the number 1 seed. The Patriots travel to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers this coming week, and then finish with 2 division rivals in Buffalo and the New York Jets, both at home. So they're looking pretty nice for 2 of those 3 games, possibly all 3. And the Texans are at the New York Jets, at Philly, and home versus Jacksonville to finish the season. So stay tuned, but not a great week for the Patriots or Texans or my pick. It's looking like the Chiefs are the leaders in the clubhouse to get the number 1 seed in the AFC. It's a nice transition into this week's picks because the NFL game I couldn't ignore is the Chargers traveling to Kansas City to face the Chiefs. The 10-3 Chargers facing the 11-2 Chiefs. Thursday Night Football, Kansas City's favored by 3.5 points. And the Chiefs won the first meeting in Week 1, 38-28. That was the beginning of a star being born and an MVP candidate being born in Patrick Mahomes. I am going to go with the home team here in the Chiefs. I think this one's close, but the Chiefs have a lot to play here and would likely wrap up the AFC for them, as I just stated. So they have a lot to play for here and would secure their spot and make it so they wouldn't have to leave their home until potentially the Super Bowl. So I'm going with the Chiefs here to top the Chargers on Thursday Night Football. But what a matchup to start the next week of NFL. Okay, I had to cover these ones, and one's my own team. So there were a lot of questionable calls this past week in the NFL, but 2 seemed to be very crucial at the end of games. So I wanted to make my pick for the worst call. The Cowboys-Eagles game had a very talked about controversial offensive pass interference called on tight end Dallas Goedert. Goedert completed a 75-yard catch and run for what looked like a touchdown that would have tied the game with Dallas at 23. However, a very weak call brought the play back for an offensive pass interference. Worth noting, the Eagles did end up scoring on that drive, used some clock on it, but did end up tying the game at 23 before the Cowboys won in overtime. The other call I wanted to wait against was a missed call. The Seattle Seahawks beat the Minnesota Vikings on Monday Night Football this past week, but it looked like Seahawks linebacker Bobby Wagner used leverage to leap over field goal blockers to block a 47-yard field goal by Vikings kicker Dan Bailey. It totally changed the face of the game. At the point the Minnesota Vikings were kicking that field goal to be down 6-3. Next thing you know, that blocked field goal, which did originally get called for a flag but got picked up by the referee. The ensuing drive led to a touchdown by the Seahawks and a wrap-up of a game that the score does not indicate how close it was. Worst call between a called offensive pass interference versus a picked-up flag on leaping or whatever they call it, leverage, personal foul leverage by Bobby Wagner. I got to be at least understanding here, and I think I'm going to pick the offensive pass interference. It was bad. I had a feeling that Seattle would still win that game at home, and that field goal still, as I said, would have put the Vikings down 3. The Eagles' reverse call kind of changed the game. It took away a huge play and 75-yard touchdown and would have put all the pressure back on the Cowboys with still plenty of time left and an opportunity for the Eagles to stop the Cowboys and get the ball back for a game-winning drive. Even though the Eagles ended up tying it, I have to go with that being the worst call because it was really ticky-tack and it didn't even look like anything. So, worst call definitely goes to the offensive pass interference, but boo-hoo, Grugier Hill. Guess they didn't choke, did they, buddy? As for what I'm feeling, had to go a little personal here. I'm definitely feeling my dad proposing to his girlfriend this past weekend. Shout out to my pops and his new fiance. They deserve the shout out. Big moment for him. And I'm definitely feeling being part of that moment. It was great to see and happy to see my dad and his brand new fiance just beaming and glowing with happiness. So shout out to them. Okay, it's time for my too much sense. You know I love giving advice, usually more than 2 cents worth, so it's my chance to educate the people even though you didn't ask for it. It's really fucking hard to admit when you're wrong and apologize, but it shows true character. It shows true character when you're able to do so. It's important to not overuse sorry. I'm not a fan of that, but it's worse to underuse it. If you're one of those people who tries to avoid it, don't be. Apologies bring closure and an ability to move on. Brushing things under the rug causes reoccurrence. That's my too much sense. I know it's tough. Apologize. I don't like apologizing. I don't like being wrong. Nobody likes it, but it's important to admit when you are, because maybe people will listen to you when you are right and have faith in you to catch yourself when you're slipping. So that's my too much sense for the week, and that wraps up another edition of Prem Brulee, the #1 podcast in your headphones. You know the drill. Please check out all of our other Holyfield podcasts. It includes Late in Manhattan by my guys Percy and Charlie. Goalie Field, hosted by Holyfield's own Will, who's on the rivalry episode with this dude. So please check out all the other Holyfield podcasts. You won't regret it. And we'll talk to you for the next episode.